Hello and welcome. My name is Maria Kliavkov, and I'm the founding director of Healthy Mourning Revolution. We're all about revolutionizing the way you think about grief and mourning. And haven't we just had a spectacular showing in England of what grief and mourning, really good grief and good mourning, is all about? You see, it's so important for us to do these rituals. It's so important for us to take 10 days to slow down to the pace of our grief and to use ritual to help us in accessing our mourning. If you're unclear about the difference between grief and mourning, please look at some of my other videos or sign up for the upcoming live launch. What I want to talk about today is the importance of making it all real. You see, the first need of mourning, as identified by Dr. Alan Wofelt, my teacher and mentor, is to make sure that we make the death real. And everything that we've seen in the last 10 days, and of course, I'm based in Canada, so we're part of the Commonwealth, and this has been very important to my fellow countrymen. And maybe touches us in a way that in the United States, it's not as important or as prevalent. But the reality is the Queen touched every person's life over the last 70 years. And so monarch or no, it is true that what has happened over the last 10 days has touched the world's heart. And in part because what she did to put into place every step of the ritual of the 10 days is she looked at how do we honor the life that has passed? How do we ensure that everybody understands that she has died? And how do we pass the torch on to her beloved son so that he can carry on? It was a series of events and rituals that, yes, was connected with pomp and circumstance, but the reality is people were coming together, which is what we need to do when we're mourning. We need to come together. We need to talk about our stories of the person who just died. And the stories that have come out about the Queen have been so beautiful. But what I'm most touched by are the people who said it wasn't real for me until I actually saw her coffin go by, or until I stood in front of her coffin after standing in line for 6 or 8 or 10 hours. You see, this need to make the death real is very important. And because we're so used to our computer screens, seeing it on newscasts doesn't necessarily make it real. So my question for you is, what is the moment in the passing of your beloved that made their death real for you? Because in that moment that it is made real, your heart is touched in a way and begins the change process. Mourning, converting the grief to mourning, is the healthy way to express out of our bodies all that we're feeling about that. And when we do that effectively, then we can move on with our life. The ceremony of removing the crown, the orb, and the scepter from the coffin and putting it on an altar, recognizing that it is going to move to the next generation and there is now a new king, allowing her to rest in peace. And in that moment, recognizing that death transcends. Death ends a life, but it does not end our relationship. And we have this misconception that we need to say goodbye and sever forever and bring closure to all of those myths that are so harsh for the person who's grieving, because it doesn't help them to understand that we do need to come face to face with the reality that our loved one is no longer in the physical realm. And as her coffin is lowered down into the vault, we understand unmistakably she is never to see the light again of the earth. And yet there is a relationship that continues. It continues in memory, it continues in a myriad of different ways, and it's going to take years to truly find where that relationship is. A good funeral service launches us on our search for where the relationship is. And the grief journey is about the journey from the moment of the physical death of our loved one to the moment when we discover where the relationship is now, because when we discover that, we are freed to live our very best life. If you're curious about how to do this, if you're needing more information, please watch more videos. Please go to healthymourning.com. Most of all, We are coming up on our next live launch. The live launch is about helping everybody to understand the difference between grief and mourning and the myths that have blocked our mourning and have caused us to walk in the world with buried and carried grief. There is possibility of finding joy in this very sacred journey. We saw King Charles III very sad. We also saw him smiling and laughing. And that is the true way of healthy mourning. I look forward to seeing you on the inside of Live Launch. In the meantime, I wish you all well. Much love to you. Namaste.